All right, welcome on back here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the questions on your 8th quiz here on Alex, or from Alex. All right, we're told the equation of a line is given below, and we're given 3x plus 2y is equal to negative 2. And first we want to find the slope, and then the y-intercept, and then after that we want to go ahead and graph the line on this axis given below here. All right. Well, this line is given to us in standard form because notice the x and y terms or the variables are on the left-hand side. Then we have the constant by itself on the right-hand side. If we want to find the slope and the y-intercept, probably the easiest thing to do is put it into that slope-intercept form or the y equals mx plus b form, where again m is going to be our slope and then b is going to be our y-intercept. All right, so let's take our equation, which was, we'll take it down here, 3x plus 2y is equal to negative 2. Now, to put it in slope-intercept form, we basically just want to solve the equation for y or get y by itself on the left-hand side. So to get this y by itself on the left-hand side, first thing we want to do is subtract the 3x from each side. Of course, here 3x's cancel out. We bring down the 2y, bring down the equal sign, and then we'd have negative 3x minus 2. Then finally, to get y by itself, we can divide each side by 2. So we have y is equal to negative 3 divided by 2 would be a negative 3/2 x. Then negative 2 divided by a positive 2 would be a minus 1 or negative 1. So from that, then we know our slope would be a negative 3/2. And then our y-intercept would be a negative 1. And then from that, we want to graph the line now. So we can graph the line again with the slope and the y-intercept. First, we start with the y-intercept of negative 1. After we put a point in, then we want to use our slope to find another point. So let's use that slope of negative 3/2. So we go down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2. Put another point in. Then after we have 2 points in, we can just go ahead and connect them with a line. And there we go. All right, for the second problem here, we're given a table of values of a linear function, a table of values of a linear function is shown below, and we're given a number of x and the corresponding y values, or a number of points that lie on that function. What we want to do is first find the y-intercept, then the slope, and of the function's graph, and then finally we want to find the equation of the function itself. All right, well, there's a number of ways to go about this, but I'll probably go around about the easiest way here. First off, well, you know the y-intercept from our previous quiz always occurs when x is 0. So you know when x is 0, in this case, y is going to be equal to negative 2. All right, so we know we're going to have an equation that looks something like y is equal to our slope multiplied by x, and then minus 2 because our slope was negative 2, right? Now, what we can do is, what we need to do is find the slope here before we can, we want to find the slope here before we can write the equation of the line. So we need to find this m, or the slope. Now, to do that, what we want to do is go ahead and we can plug in any point that lies on this line other than this point that we first used right here to figure out the y-intercept. All right, so let's go ahead and just pick the easiest point right here and go ahead and use 1, 1. All right, so let's plug that in. We put a 1 in for y and also a 1 in for x, so we would have 1 is equal to, we're going to leave m, our slope m, because that's what we want to solve for, multiplied by 1, then minus 2. All right, then next step, we'll solve for the m here. We want to, 1 multiplied by m just goes away, so we want to go ahead and add 2 to each side. So let's see, 1 plus 2 would be a 3. Bring down the equal sign, and then again, m multiplied by 1, that would just be equal to m. And there we have the value of m, our slope. So we know our slope then is equal to 3. So then, since we already had our y-intercept of -2 and we just found our slope, we're ready to write the equation of our line, which is y is equal to our slope of 3 multiplied by x, then -2 or minus or plus our y-intercept of -2. And there we have it. All right, here we're told to find an equation for the line below here. And we're given the line, and you can see there's 2 points that we know that are on the line here. We have the point where x is going to be -6 and y is going to be a +4, so that'd be a -6, 4. And I'll label that as our x1, y1 for our first point. Then we have another point right here where x is going to be a +4 and y would be a -4. So I'll call that point x2, y2 to denote it's our second point. Now, we'll go ahead and find the equation of our line graphically in this case. To figure out first off, to find the equation of a line, we're going to find it in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So, as we talked about before, we need to know the slope of that line, or m, and then the y-intercept, or b. Now, in this case, we can't really read what the y-intercept is directly off of the graph, because notice it's a little bit above that -1 right there. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to figure out what the slope m is from these 2 points, and then we're going to plug one of these 2 points into the equation like we did in the last problem to figure out what the y-intercept is. All right, so let's see. The slope, remember, is equal to the rise over the run. So in this case, let's see, to get from our first point right here to our second point right here, we went down, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units, right? So that would be a rise of -8. And then a run of, well, since we're going to the right, this is going to be positive, of, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a run of 10. All right, so we know our rise over run would be -8 over +10, or we could reduce that down to -4/5. All right, so we know our equation is going to look something like y is equal to -4/5 x plus b. And again, we need to figure out what that b value, or our y-intercept, is here. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in a point that we know that's on the line. So we can plug in either -6, +4, or +4, -4. We might as well plug these in. They look a little bit smaller, but either one will work. So let's see. We can plug in a -4 for our y value is equal to -4/5 multiplied by our x value of 4, and plus b. All right, so first off, well, we want to solve for b, but first off, let's multiply the -4/5 by the 4 before we take that term over to the other side. So let's turn that 4 into a fraction, so we can just multiply straight across. So let's simplify that. We'd have -4, bring down the equal sign. Then if we multiplied straight across here, we'd have -4 multiplied by 4. That'd be a -16 over, then 5 multiplied by 1 would be 5. Then bring down the plus b. Now, to get b by itself, we want to go ahead and add 16/5 to each side. All right. Now, we need to add, well, of course, the 16/5 cancel off on this side. And, all right, so we bring down the equal and the plus b because the -16/5 cancel off. But before we can take this -4 and add in 16/5, what we need to do is change this to fifths. So that would be equivalent to -20/5. So -20/5 plus 16/5 would be then a -4/5. Then finally, we can write the equation of the line, which would be y is equal to our slope, which we found previously was -4/5 x. Then plus our y-intercept, or in this case, minus 4/5, because our y-intercept b was negative 4/5. And there we have the equation of the line. All right, for the final problem in that chapter 8 quiz, suppose that the weight in pounds of an airplane is a linear function and the total amount of fuel in gallons, of the total amount of fuel in gallons in its tank. When graphed, the function gives a line with a slope of 6.4. So we know the slope is 6.4. See the figure below here. And with 48 gallons of fuel in its tank, the airplane weighs 2,307.2 pounds. And then we're asked, what is the weight of the plane with 18 gallons of fuel in its tank? All right, so, well, basically what this point, or what this graph below right here tells us, is a point that lies on this line is going to be where the amount of fuel, or x value, is 48, when our y value, or the plane weight, is 2,307.2 pounds. So the x value and our y value. All right, and we already know the slope is 6.4, so we know the equation is going to be something like y is equal to 6.4 multiplied by x plus some y-intercept right here. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in the point that we know lies on the line when y is 2,307.2. We know that our x value is going to be 48. Bring down the plus b here. Now let's solve for the b, or our y-intercept here. So let's multiply 6.4 by 48 first. So bring down the 2,307.2. Bring down the equal. 6.4 multiplied by 48 is 307.2 plus b. Then to get b by itself, subtract out the 307.2 from each side. All right, and that works out to a nice even 2,000. So our y-intercept, or b, is 2,000. So we know the equation of the line would be y equals 6.4 multiplied by the amount of fuel in gallons plus then our y-intercept of 2,000 pounds. All right, but that's not what we're asked. We're asked what's the y value, or our weight right here, when we have 18 gallons of fuel in our tank here. So let's plug that 18 in for x and figure out what our y value would be. So we'd have 6.4 multiplied by then our x value of 18 plus 2,000. So first 6.4 multiplied by 2,000, that would be 115.2. Down the plus 2,000. And that's finally equal to then 2,115.2. So the weight in pounds of this airplane when it had 18 gallons of fuel then would be 2,115.2 pounds. And that wraps it up for this quiz.